Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wait a While podcast. Mike Lello with you, as always, with AJ Jump. And we have another great guest. We've had amazing guests so far, and we have Bob Oxblood with us today. And just a quick rundown, works with Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness, Jack's Mannequin, Something Corporate, all that strain of bands. Also does his own great solo material under the name Bob Oxblood. And AJ, there's a couple other names you want to run by us?
What are these, AJ?
Bobby Raw.
Oh, yeah.
B.O.B.
Yep.
To name a few. Bob Anderson, a.k.a. Bob Oxblood, a.k.a. B.O.B., a.k.a. Bobby Raw. I think that covers them all, right?
That's good. That's good.
Yeah,
That's good enough.
So real quick, I know just in us setting this up, you've been like all over the place. I didn't even realize you were in Boston. So give us a little, before we get into your past and your career, what are you working on right now? And I know you're about to head out west to work on some cool stuff.
At this moment, I'm working on, actually, I've been working on a Bach piece. That's what I'm doing. That's what I've been doing for the past few months. I've been doing playing nothing but Baroque music, a ton of Bach. That's really what I've been doing. But I'm coming up to do some shows with my friend Andrew McMahon. We're actually going to do this. So I was up last night, actually spending a lot of time going over this material, which you'd think I know by now, but still, I'm just like, got a list of songs. I'm like, ooh, I got some work to do. So that's what I've been doing. Last night I was up going over for a bunch of music we're going to play in Anaheim in I guess maybe it's about a week now or a couple weeks now, something like that. But yeah, we're doing this like drive-in show, which is this bizarre thing. I don't know if you've heard anything about this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we sit on stage. We're going to be in the parking lot of this place, the Grove, and which I've played many times. Never the parking lot, I don't think, but people are going to drive in, like a drive-in movie theater, and have like I don't know. There'll be like a certain amount of people allowed into a car, and then how they're going to hear it. Are they going to get like a little device kind of thing that you pick up at the drive-in, or is it going to be on FM radio? They're going to be able to tune into like a thing. It is. That's how it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of different folks. In fact, I'm involved with one right now, booking one right now that's going to be pretty cool. There's several shows in the parking lot of the sports arena here. Cool. But yeah, basically people are going to be able to tune in, but they are social distancing and how it is, they're going to be able to get out of their cars too, which should be cool. So. Oh,
really? Yeah. So I think you're not allowed to get out of the car, and I think, but it's except to go to the bathroom or something like that. It's like you're only allowed, as many seat belts as you have in the cars, how many people are allowed in each vehicle. But I don't know. Honestly, I wonder if it's going to happen. I just woke up and was reading. I don't read the news, mind you, ever, but I happened to catch something on my phone about how like cases in California are just skyrocketing right now, and it's particularly not in LA as much as Orange County, where we're going. And so I don't know. I'm kind of waiting for the call. It may not happen. We'll see. But I mean.
Have you been doing any, a lot of musicians are doing live stream shows, from their home and whatnot. Have you done any of those?
I haven't. Actually, AJ asked me to do one. I had, my sister-in-law who works for LLS was gonna have me do one. Never got around to it, man. I was like, but everybody I know was doing them. I think for a minute there, for like a month, it was like it was overload. But I don't know. I never had. I was so busy, and I was like, I feel like. Once that happened, a lot of people kind of went on vacation in a way, but like that's when I started working my ass off, strangely enough. And the idea of like having time to like put together like a set was just not even in the thing. I don't know.
Did you lose like a lot of gigs?
Yeah.
Your solo stuff, yeah.
Well, yeah. There's like with the Andrew thing, especially. I think we would have been on tour right now with. The band AWOL Nation. Yeah, we had a bunch of cool shows lined up as well, opening for the likes of Billy Joel and whatnot, which unfortunately is not happening. Hopefully, make that happen again. But yeah, so for sure.
it's unbelievable, man, how all this stuff has been put on pause, right? I mean, you'd never think, like, normally for shows like this to be put on pause, there's lawsuits and agents and managers and people are just going nuts. But this was like everyone, you know, from the underbelly that I talked to, like people like booking bands like Tool and things like that, where it's just like everybody's kind of in the same boat no matter what, and they understand that it just had to be done. And it's just it's freaking crazy. You know, again, I always say on these things, it's hard. I don't like talking about it anymore, but it's hard not to. You have to. You got to address the stuff, you know, and it is what it is. And now, like you said too, things are ramping back up. And everyone's trying to be positive and do some different things, and they may not. There may be things canceled again.
Yeah.
So who knows? It's crazy. It's definitely crazy. But how you feeling up there in Boston? All right?
I feel good. I feel real good, man. It's been nice, dude. You know, it's a big change. Brooklyn was, so as you know, I went down to DC. I moved to DC for a hot minute at the end of January to kind of start a new thing. And then within a couple of weeks, I moved right back to Brooklyn just in time for the whole, like, the mess to start. And so the girl I was seeing at the time, who I'm still seeing now, I'm here in Boston with, but she was working at a hospital down the street. So like I kind of like moved back to Brooklyn and ended this whole like really up in the mess. So it was educational. You know, I learned a lot. You know, I didn't. It was so Boston is not that way. It's a little more chill right now. But like you said, I don't know, things might be ramping up too. Anyway, because nobody's wearing masks up here. These old dudes on the street just like, I'm not wearing no masks. No, for nobody. I mean, you know, it's actually the whole. You familiar with the North End then?
Yeah, absolutely.
So they guess they just in the past like couple of weeks they let I guess the curbs or outdoor seating and like restaurants, stuff like that. But so like every restaurant in this place just blew up. So they took out all the parking. There's just tables all the, you know, down the streets and whatnot. But apparently they just like went way too far. Like some state officials, whatever, in here, or some like you know investigators were like checking out there if they were like staying to code and all the new, which they weren't, of course, at all. So there's this whole thing about threatening to shut it all down again. So I don't know, like I feel like it's gone too far. It's about to get pulled back as far as that goes. I don't know. We'll see. But it's still it's something that seems more calm than Brooklyn.
Yeah. One thing I've been thinking about as far as people, like, if this becomes kind of the way things are for a while, you know, musicians still want to play, fans still want to listen to music. Yeah. And I was thinking about how, you know, one of the good things is this is driving innovation. Like, no one was thinking about doing drive-in concerts like a month ago, and maybe we'll never do them again in 10 years. But it's an idea, and people are going to make mistakes, and they're going to learn from it. But another thing I was thinking is about how sometimes the commerce, the business end of things doesn't catch up to the innovation. So I was thinking about like Napster and everything, and people got used to getting their music for free. So you have this great technological development, but people were kind of getting screwed. So the one thing I've been thinking about is, in a long way of saying it, is all these live streams, are people going to say, well, I'm in my home, I'm on my laptop or my phone, why should I pay? And I've seen a few of the paid ones, and they're much better. It's not just some guy on his iPhone in his bedroom. There's a stage, there's cameraman, it's you know, really. But you know, if someone's willing to pay $100 to see someone in person, would they be willing to pay $30 or $40 to see them at home? You know, I'm just wondering about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're asking the wrong guy about that, just because I wouldn't. But I mean, I don't know. That's just me. I'm like off the grid stuff. But you're right. This whole thing is going to bring about. It's got, you know, this whole, we got to, you know, we'll adapt and we'll figure stuff out. And so like the aftermath of this is going to be really interesting, like how the world is for stuff like that. Because it's definitely going to change. It's not going to go back, you know, to how it was, for sure.
No.
There's no way, so it's kind of interesting. And I mean, I'm looking forward to see how that kind of thing works out. Like, I think there'll be a lot of bad to it, like as far as like companies just laying off, like that have already laid off these employees for this, that, and the other thing. And then when everything's cool and it's like, are we going to hire those guys back? No, we figured out how to do this without them. Right. So, which I think there's going to be a lot of that, which is going to be a drag. But I think, I don't know, there'll be a lot of, there's got to be some positive to it. Yeah. It's going to be different for sure.
Switching gears here, Bob. I mean, man, you've been in the business a long time. Mike mentioned some of the stuff that are, you know, with your brothers in the wilderness that you've been playing with for a long time. I mean, you have a long history with J-Mac and Andrew, you know, and playing in something corporate and Jack's Mannequin and now the wilderness and also like you've been a sideman in some interesting situations. One being Tommy Lee's band, but
I knew you were gonna bring that one up, man.
Well, I mean, it's pretty, you know, didn't he just release something? Mike, didn't he just release an album?
Yeah, he put at least some songs out, or a song. I know he put something out. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta imagine he would be. I mean, I haven't seen that guy in ages, but
I mean,
he's gonna be doing stuff. I know that, unless he's, you know.
But between that and then also John Legend, and then you were guitar player, you played all over the world with Legend, and then also your group Bike Lock, which you and J-Mac history there, and you guys are, you know, you're gonna put some tunes out with that, right?
Well, I was gonna say that the whole thing that's the California thing, like I'm going out there, I've got a date set to mix those. So Bike Lock's doing. We got 4 songs recorded. They're done, just waiting to be mixed. So our man Sean is gonna put those together for. I think he's gonna start mixing here in a few days, and then while I'll be down there for like a week for rehearsals for the Andrew thing. I just tacked on a couple more days at the end of that, and I'm gonna head up to LA where his place is at, and he's starting his own studio up there. So we're gonna so we got like 4 Bike Lock songs coming out here shortly. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry, I just want to throw that in.
No, it's all good. That's what this is for. But I mean, so many different musical situations, from pop to rock to R&B to punk to, you know, indie rock, to your own stuff that's kind of like folk, indie, almost a little bit of a classical edge guitar vibe, and beautiful lyrics, and you know, through all these things and playing everywhere from Pete's Candy Store to the Forum in LA, like, you know, you've been up, down, left, and right in this business. What's one thing, you know, just in general, that you've taken through the music business over the years? One thing that's maybe never changed, that's always stayed with you through all these things?
Well, I say, well, you know, okay, you say the music business is one thing. I could say about that is that like I've never felt like I was in the music business. Like I'm not that. A lot of people, most people I know are like in some way or like in that way. I'm just, all I know how to do is just kind of play, and that's all I want to do is like make music. Which is this, you know, a smarter dude would have been like, or you money, I'm gonna focus on this thing. I'm gonna drive this home. I'm gonna make. It's like I don't know. I can't. It's too much for me. I just like to make pretty songs or ugly songs or make whatever. I don't know. The business side of it is like, I'm clueless, man. I think I know what's up in my own little way, but like, I just never bothered myself with it. It's just such a turn off to me. I kind of hate it. It's like, ugh. On
the musical side of things, what kind of advice would you give someone? I mean, obviously as a guitarist, you have your own style. Like any, you know, good musician, you have your own distinctive way of doing things, but you're also able to be a chameleon and adapt to these situations. I mean, to go from a John Legend to a Tommy Lee to your own stuff. So, I mean, if you knew someone that was, you know, just a talented guitar player, there's a lot of people with talent out there. What kind of advice would you give them of the type of just headspace they need to be in to be able to be ready for that call and be able to play a metal gig or a pop gig or a hip hop gig or whatever?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, because a lot of people can't do that. A lot of people are, I play this. Like I said, if I was smart, I would just pick my thing, and this guy. I'm an R&B player. This is what I do. Or I'm a jazz player. I just play that. That's my thing. But I don't know.
Don't
I
say
just
not
like,
being smart, man. Don't say not being smart. You just
well,
you love a
if I
lot
was,
of different music.
what I mean is smart. I was smart, yeah. But it's, yeah, I don't know. If advice, I mean, it's just, again, it's not, it's so much as like, I just like to play, and like things like that, like the John Legend thing, for instance, was like R&B, like modern R&B. Like I didn't know anything about. Like I know who John, knew the name John Legend, but I didn't know his music at all. And so I got some songs. I just learned for the audition. I got him like some songs a week before, and I just crammed. But also I've got this, like I'm the guy that doesn't mind staying on hold with Verizon for 2 hours to get through the thing to do it. So I'm also, I don't know, I have this thing where I don't mind putting my head down and getting to work and just, it's going slow, it's not coming, I'll still stay there. I'll beat my head against the wall until it's done. Like I'm that dude. So that might be a thing. But
You're the only guy left in the room, maybe, or one of the few people just walked away from it. They were sick of them. So what?
Right, right. So maybe that's what it is.
That's part of it, just the perseverance of it. And the patience. How did was that just kind of a blind audition, or how did you end up with getting into that John Legend world?
It was so a friend of ours in touring with, actually back to Something Corporate days, this guy Chris, who's used to do lights for us and into Jack's Mannequin, Chris Steinbrink, and he was so John was looking for a guitar player, and so he ended up being John Legend's production manager eventually. I don't know how that came about, but so he was John was looking for a new guitar player. Actually, at some point way before that, years before that, he needed a guitar player for a Tonight Show performance, and he hit me up about it, and I was like, what? Seemed weird to me. I was like, John Legend? Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'll do it. They ended up finding somebody else last minute, but a couple of years later, he was looking to find a guitar player, and Chris called me and asked if I wanted to do the audition, and I just left Jack's Mannequin, and I was like, well, not really. I kind of want to start my own thing, which is this Oxblood thing. But I thought about it. I was like, no, I gotta do it. I have to take that. So, so Chris got me the audition. So I went to SIR, I think downtown in Manhattan, and just auditioned with like a room full of a bunch of other people in the room. I was just like next up, went in. But like then that too, it's like I wouldn't go into an audition like that, like half cocked. So I spent, I was up 24 hours, like for like days before that, learning all this material and learning all the vocals, and like, because I was out of my element, and I had a lot of work to do. I worked that whole time I played with John. I had a lot of work to do because R&B wasn't my thing, so I had to like figure that stuff out real fast, which is great. Like I love that kind of challenge, and maybe a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people are like not into that, but I don't know. For some reason, I kind of get off on that a little bit, so I enjoy that.
Yeah, a lot of guys at that level have a musical director, and the artist is kind of hands off with a lot of stuff and putting the band together and all that. Was John actually part of the auditioning process? Was he around for this? He was.
Absolutely. No, he was there the whole time. But he has a musical director who's very much like, when we started doing rehearsals, the musical director took the chair. He would like get everybody into shape before John drove down to. I think we were rehearsing in Pennsylvania somewhere. Where's the what is it? Claire. It was
that's in
Ben Salem or something.
Ben Salem. In that industrial park, right?
Yeah.
Yep. It's like
I think
it's secluded. It's like really like there's just like kind of like when you go out to gyms. It's like in a like an industrial park situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's not a like,
in the middle of nowhere. I remember that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because he, believe it or not, John was the musical director at a church called Christ the King in Scranton.
Right.
And a person
That's cool.
Who's a bass player, Doug Smith, he's the head of the Dixieland All-Stars and also the Musicians Union in this area. Doug used to play with John at church services, man. So it's funny that there's this connection, to our area too. A lot of people say there was he was from Scranton. It's like, no, he wasn't. He had a job in Scranton, but they always cite that he's from the Philadelphia area. Where is he actually from? Do you know?
Where did he go to school? No, I don't. I mean, I've met his whole family, but I can't remember. I mean,
It's
I don't
funny
remember.
because
Didn't he go to school like West
he went
Pennsylvania
to
somewhere?
school. I don't know, but he has this whole.
I have no idea. I don't know.
But then there's a trumpet player who I've played with. His name is Clay. He's from the Bethlehem, Allentown area, and he was in John's band after you were in John's band. And I
Really?
played a gig with him this time last year, and I mentioned to him, I'm like, hey, I played with a singer-songwriter out of Brooklyn who was in John's band before you were in John's band. So it's funny how, like, Bob, I mean, I think you could attest to this, and this is coming back to anybody who's been on one of these auditions. Really, even if you aren't the jazz guy or the metal guy, or if you're a proficient player and you could actually, you could play, your instrument, as long as, if you're a good hang, you have to spend so much time with these people. And Bob knows that, right? It's all about that.
Right. That's a huge thing about it, is the hang. And it depends on, like, as far as the John Legend, the audition went, like, I think also he might have been looking to not find another jazz guy to come in. So I think he kind of liked that I was not, because I'm not a jazz guy, as you well know, AJ. But I think so. I think that kind of worked in my favor. I don't know. I mean, but I was definitely, but as far as the hang factor and getting like the gig is really big. It's probably way bigger than people think. And unless you're doing like a jazz gig or something, if you're where you have to, but if you're doing like a pop rock gig or I mean, where you're not really, I don't know. Yeah, a hang is like, I don't know, maybe 60% of the thing. Like, are you a friend to somebody? Does somebody know you're cool? Can you actually, because like I said, you're going to spend a lot of time with that person. And you don't want to, like a one bad kind of vibe in the group just spreads like poison. It can be like a bad thing. But yeah. So yeah, there should be classes on that, like how to hang at Berkeley. Like, do they have those kind of classes?
Well, when I went there, it was a lot different than apparently what it is now. I mean, a lot of people don't know this too. Eric Andre went to Berkeley, and he shits on it real hard.
I always hear people shit on Berkeley.
Well,
like people who graduated there from, like, I know. I feel this, like, the shame or something.
No,
like, I don't know.
When I was there, man, honestly, you made it what it was, kind of like life. And the good thing about it was I still have good friends to this day that are heavily into business. I have a friend that works for Dr. Dre. I have a friend that is an R&B producer out west in LA right now. He works for Warner Brothers. Like, you know what I mean? And people that are all through the business, and people still playing, and people that worked in Nashville or still work in Nashville. You know what I mean? So I think it's just good to be around those people. But also, you also know that 50% of those people that you're going to school with there, they're not going to end up being in the music business. That's just kind of like when you play college football.
Sounds like sports. Yeah,
Yeah, when you play college football, guess what? 75% of those guys aren't even going to get to go to the combine. You know what I mean? Right. And then another 12% of them aren't even going to get on a team.
Yeah, well, I went to school studying classical guitar performance. Like, how many people? How many people like actually became performing classical, career classical guitar players? Like, there's like 10 in the world or something, like,
But you still use that to this day, though.
I do. No, you're right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I use a ton of that. I'm using it all the time, and I'm still paying for it. The debt I have is like colossal. It's huge. I'll never pay it off. But
you went to VCU.
I think about it, but I went to VCU. Yeah. But I guess I'm kind of glad I did it. But that's talk about a useless. If you're smart, you wouldn't go for a classical music performance major. You know what I mean? It's like, you probably go like a business major, or like do some business.
I guess that's what you make of it too. I mean, you could major in philosophy, ended up being a best-selling author, having nothing to do with it, but maybe you learn something from that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think back on classes that technically have done nothing for me as far as resume building or anything, but there's some of the things I think about the most, like these random astronomy classes or whatever that probably rubbed off me in some way,
No, I agree. Yeah. So, and that's also maybe a little glimpse into my personality, because I just went, I just want to, walking into like some pretty flowers. I'm gonna go over here. What is it? But I just want to play. I'm just gonna go play some class. That's all I want to do. I wasn't thinking any further than that, unfortunately. But yeah, actually, I took astronomy back in the day, and I was like, and it blew my mind, man. And it was like just an elective I took. I'll never forget. And that's one of these things I'll remember forever. It's like, actually looking through this telescope and looking and seeing, I think Saturn or whatever, this massive telescope we had in the back one night. We all met up at like 11 o'clock, something like that, in Richmond, and check this out. But yeah, things like that, and just studying stuff like like Baroque counterpoint and stuff like that.
Like learning,
I get off on that
you,
stuff.
Like learning stuff is not going to be bad. It's not going to knock something else out of your head.
Yeah, I get off on that stuff. I love it. I eat it. I'd love to go back to school and like study that kind of stuff again, just because it's so much fun for me. Yeah. But who's paying for that?
Right. Before we did this, I looked up an interview I did with you like maybe a year or two ago. We were playing some shows in Brooklyn and whatnot, and I remember that you grew up on a lot of like Def Leppard type stuff and, the 80s metal thing. And then, you mentioned Tommy Lee. So how did that connection with Tommy Lee come? And were you flashing back to your fanboy days of maybe being a Motley Crue fan? Or?
No, that was when Jay and I first kind of drove out west to start Jack's Mannequin, like properly with Andrew. I think I'd already flown out to like record on the album, and then I'd flown back, and like Jay and I packed up our stuff and headed west. Got to town, and Andrew got sick, so Jack's Mannequin was like immediately put on hold. We were on tour, and so Andrew shared Andrew's manager also is a huge management company, but Tommy Lee was in there somewhere, and he was getting ready to put out a record. He might have still been recording it. Actually, it was definitely still recording because I played on it. Yeah, there's like 2 songs I play on this album, but that was actually before Andrew got sick. But so it's a shared management company. He was trying to put a band together to play. We didn't tour or anything, but we did like talk shows, a lot of talk shows, like a bunch of the American talk shows, and we flew to Europe and did like 5 or 6 of those with my man. Yeah, but anyway. But so audition style, we went in and auditioned for that as well. But that was definitely like some love coming from the management company. It was like, hey, we got some boys down here, Tommy, if you want to fight. So we went and hung out with Tommy and did this thing, which is even more bizarre, way more bizarre than the John Legend thing. But then I grew up on Motley Crue. That was my band when I was like, I don't know, like 12 or 13 years old. I still love hearing Motley Crue to this day, like the earlier stuff. It's great. I love it. But that was the most bizarre thing I've ever done, was playing with Tommy Lee for that hot minute, playing some shows, it was hilarious. It's unbelievable the whole time. It's just like, what is going on? It was a lot of fun.
And then there was the cross-pollination too, where he played with Jack's Mannequin. Yeah.
So he not only played with Jack, he kind of, I don't know if he's credited with playing the drums on the album. I think he might. I don't know how that is credited, but he did. Like, most of it is him playing. Like, we went over to his buddy Scott's studio up in the hills, and the way they were putting that record together, like all the drums at that point had just been chopped drums from kind of other unused sessions and stuff like that. Like, they just, like, rather than going through drum sample like library stuff like that, they took from like actual stuff that like CJ and Jim had, like, to kind of to fish from. And so we just went in and got Tommy to play just kind of riffs, like just for certain songs that didn't have drums or had kind of temporary, like, just kind of drumish things to him. So we had him play just like rhythms, like, and he would just do chunks. And so he really didn't know what was going on, but we had just got to play these little bits that we had, and then went back, and then CJ like pieced it together. And CJ and Jim like pieced the whole thing together. So he played on it, but it was like I think J Max says, like, CJ needs the drum credit on that record, because he kind of made it into a drum part. But yeah, so I guess so. But he's the drummer on, I think, that entire record, as far as I know.
Which record is that?
The first, the Everything in Transit.
Yeah, which is it's the 15th. Is it the 15th anniversary of that?
Yeah, so I was made aware of that just a couple of weeks ago. I think when I got the set list. So we're going to play the album, Everything in Transit.
Nice.
15-year anniversary. So, which is great. I've actually listened to that album for the first time because we did like the 10-year thing like 5 years ago, and I still didn't listen to it. I don't know. I'm not really like. But I would kind of how we do it live, because it's kind of evolved. As soon as we started playing it live, it immediately took off in another thing, because the album's real, like, kind of early 2000 style. And like chopped up drums, really. It's all like very like, pop of that much of, of that time, of that era. So when we started playing it live, we just kind of took off and made it more of a live thing. So, but now I've gone back and listened to it. And it's like, it's interesting. I'm hearing stuff I forgot was there. It's been really fun.
A lot of that stuff, like early 2000s, pop punk, whatever you want to call it, stuff that was coming out of emo and all these other things. A lot of it seems like it kind of had a shelf life, and people listen to it when they were of a certain age, and they kind of move on from it. And even the musicians move on from it. But the stuff you've been involved with Andrew has, not only are you guys still doing it, maybe not full time, but you're revisiting it, but the fan base is still there. Well, I mean, just what are some aspects do you think of the songs or the music that it hasn't become dated, it's actually had a longer lifespan?
Well, I think for sure Andrew's thing was it's very different. I mean, the whole, started, like Jay and I started doing that pop punk thing in 2000 is when I just kind of left. I gave up the whole classical guitar thing, just went on tour. And which is great, but the music to me, I was always baffled by I was always like, what is going on? I mean, we toured with hundreds and hundreds of bands, and there was that scene. I kind of joined a band that just went on tour in that scene, and there was a lot of good stuff. It wasn't all, but I was always just kind of like, I don't know what's happening. It's weird to me. I don't know. As far as the kind of kid, the poppy, punky. The more poppy, the more punky it was. I was just kind of like, I don't know. But Something Corporate, that was when we met Something Corporate, they still weren't really like that. They still were kind of had a little bit more of a deeper thing to them. I mean, they were, kids doing the thing, but it wasn't so much that pop punky kind of thing, But when Andrew started playing me songs for the stuff that he was working on the new Jack's Mannequin thing, I immediately was like, oh, that's, I don't know. I knew it was great. It was cool. And it was different immediately. And it wasn't that, like being in the studio for that album, even though he was of that era and it was of that time in the middle of that whole world. And I think one of his favorite bands, like Newfound Glory and all these, who was that band? Well, I love those guys. I really like Newfound Glory a lot, but it was of that era, and he's not going to do a record like that. So anyway, but making that album was there was never some we need some, there was no, it just was real, kind of felt natural, felt really cool and different. And lyrically is a whole nother thing too, because I think that's, Andrew's, biggest thing he brings to the party is he actually has lyrics that are, I don't know, they're just interesting, good lyrics that are kind of go beyond the scene and go beyond that, whatever's kind of that fabulous. But yeah, I agree with you. There's a whole, that being of that era, all those bands in that time, so many are just I don't know, I don't get anything out of putting on or hearing that in a bar. Sometimes I'll hear it once in a while. Usually 9 times out of 10, I'm like, oh no, make it stop. But there's a handful of stuff that survives, and Andrew's thing is definitely one of them.
Well, these emo nights right now are huge with DJs.
I know.
And
I've never been. It'd be like torture to me. I'd be like, oh god.
Well, either have I, but I know that they all sell out everywhere. In fact, there's a touring one that's Brooklyn emo, and they tour other places. But anyway, I guarantee you the mixtape is played once a night at those things.
Oh, which is so weird because it's not. It almost doesn't seem like it fits in that kind of grew, but I don't know.
The
Whatever.
Warped Tour, really. I mean, that's really what it was.
Yeah, but even though we played the Warped Tour, like it always felt like just musically it was just like
You didn't
what?
belong.
Yeah,
I think
it's
a
like,
lot of
I don't
times it's
know.
more about the packaging and the fashion. I mean, even when you look at like
Yeah, no, you're right for
what's
sure.
now called hair metal, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
mentioned Motley Crue, but that if you still like listening to Motley Crue, that doesn't mean you're going to be into like Trickster or I'm trying to think of, Dokken or something. I mean,
Right.
a lot of those bands really didn't sound that much, and if they looked different, people would have taken them more
Yeah,
seriously. But I think, especially, and you were still on the tail end of the MTV era, it wasn't totally dead yet. So,
Yeah.
Green Day gets big and Blink-182 gets big, so everything kind of gets funneled in. Even Seattle, I mean, Soundgarden
No,
is like a metal band, and Alice in Chains, they don't really sound like Pearl Jam. But
isn't that strange?
that's
Yeah,
how it was packaged for us to consume.
right. No, you're right. To us, it's like, bands like Nirvana, Alice in Chains, and Soundgarden, and Pearl Jam.
Nothing in common.
Completely different. Yeah, it's like,
Right.
what? This is so bizarre. But when I was a kid, I kind of thought them as
Right.
they were one group because it was kind of marketed to me.
That's
like,
right. Then you
Yeah,
get older
sure.
and realize it was like almost a
really different bands.
scam.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
some of it all just has the same guitar tone. Like, if you think of like some sort of bass line, it's like, yeah, well, there's a distorted guitar in
Oh, right. Yeah.
you know what I
Right.
mean? Or
Probably a lot of the same producers and a lot of the same management, and there's a lot of that makes things homogenous too.
Well,
sometimes.
it definitely, because I think I was like maybe I was 20 or 21 when that whole era hit, and like I was aware of it then. I didn't know anything about anything, but like once those bands like Nirvana and Alice in Chains kind of happened, it was like huge. It was like, but then the homogenized like product, the output, just that's when the producers came in. You had that
Yeah.
one producer producing, just like in the 2000s or whatever. Then it just got like.
Then the second wave of it comes along.
Yeah, it's
more
just
diluted.
what? Yeah, and it's just people just trying to reproduce that thing, and it's a real thing, man. And it's so weird to look back on it. It's like,
Well,
wow.
when anything gets big in an authentic way, then the
No, because
like,
this is
unauthentic
king.
way
Right.
comes through. I mean, when hip hop was getting bubbling up above the surface, then you had MC Hammer, Vanilla Ice, and that,
Right.
or any kind of genre. What if the underground is starting to make money? The mainstream is going to co-opt it, and then
Oh yeah, there's money.
things get diluted.
Yeah, it's like this sells. It doesn't matter what you have.
Right.
Like you say, if you package it like this.
Yeah, it doesn't mean the labels
know-
all of a sudden liked Kurt Cobain's music. It's like,
No, hell no.
no, it's making money for them. We need
Yeah,
a
making
version of
money.
that.
Which of course, of course, that's how it works. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not like any shocker, but it's like, yeah, I don't know.
AJ, anything else you want to ask? I know we've been all over the map, but I think that's good because your career, your interests are all over the map. So I think that sort of fits what's going here. What you're all about. But AJ, anything else you wanted to touch on with Bob?
no, I just wanted to plug the Bob solo stuff shamelessly because I played on some of it. So Bob Oxblood, the Oxblood solo material, and then like he said, they're about to hopefully put out some of his early Bike Lock material too.
Yeah. So Bike Lock, by the way, is just when Jay and I met Andrew in something corporate, like this is back in like 2000, maybe 3 or something like that. Jay Mack and I were in this other band, River City High, and we were in the middle of leaving that band to start this band Bike Lock. And so before Jack's Mannequin, we were doing these demos, and we cut like, I don't know, 15 songs, something like that. But so we ended up kind of starting Jack's Mannequin in the middle of putting that out. So that was kind of put on ice. So as Jack's Mannequin kind of did our thing, we eventually put out like 4 EPs in like, I don't know, 2009, 2010 or something like that. But so anyway, but this is a continuation of that. And so there's just like 4 songs, like I said, we're going to mix here in the next couple of weeks. And it's more, I don't know what to call it. Just it's rock. It's like a little bit heavier, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, check that out for sure. And then the Oxblood, I think it's just at Bike Lock Music is the Instagram handle. But and then the Oxblood thing, AJ, which we got like 4 songs, all you playing on drums and all that. So that's almost done. I'm just getting with my studio hooked up, so I'm gonna finish those tracks, man. Lace that up with bass and whatnot. I'm gonna get those. Really looking forward to getting that stuff out, of course, because that's like my thing. It was the Oxblood thing. So, but yeah, hopefully got a lot of stuff happening this year. We'll see if.
Cool. Well, thanks, Bob. Appreciate it, man. And you stay safe. And,
Yeah, likewise.
Good luck flying out to the West Coast. And I'm putting a T-shirt in the mail tomorrow for you.
I know. I can't wait to get this shirt. Actually, I'm glad you reminded me. I've got the shirt right here. I'm gonna throw. Oh wait, hold on. I got it right here. There you go, my man.
There we go. I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, dude.
I appreciate it, man.
It's coming your way, baby.
Wonderful. All
Yeah.
right, man. Be well. Thank
All
you.
right, y'all. Yeah, great
Thanks,
talking
Bob.
to you. All right, man. Talk to y'all soon.
Yep.
All right, later.